any of the decisions that you've made in the last 5 years, can you fix any of them? Can you go back and amend or help or aid in any way whatsoever a process for somebody else or for yourself? Or is it, doesn't matter what you do now, nothing can be changed? Like, for example, your regret. So your regret, there's no way out of that. You have to have regret. You think? You believe that? Like, you need to feel regret? The decision we make, we only feel regret if there's no chance of amending anything or fixing, or at the very least making it easier for somebody else or for ourselves. That's why I was asking you, because we all make decisions, right? That we, let's use the word regret, okay? That we regret. Because at the time, that seemed like a good decision. And now, as time went by in the future, which is the present, we've noticed that it probably wasn't a good decision. Yeah, we do that all the time. Every day, all of us. You, I, Donald Trump, we all make decisions. Nothing can stop us from that. Because a lot of the decisions we make are based on our future consideration of those decisions. They're made by the instant gratification, you know what I mean? That's why people become addicted to stuff, whether it's cocaine, cigarettes, sex, porn, whatever it is, because they know that they shouldn't be doing it. They've decided they weren't going to do it, but they haven't really decided, or else they wouldn't. But say they've decided they want to stop it, and then as they're doing it, I call it the fuck it stage. Oh, fuck it, I'll do it anyway, because it's given me instant gratification. You reach the fuck it stage, you know, tomorrow I'm going to regret this, or an hour later I'm going to regret it. Cigarettes is a big one. I'm not promoting smoking, because smoking is bad for you, but there's a certain point where things are good for you and they start becoming bad for you. And that's the same with anything. And it's also the reverse, that things are bad for you and actually there's a point where they're actually good for you. For example, alcohol, you know. If you say, I'm drinking, you know, a bottle of scotch every night, well, that's probably bad for you, I suspect, physically and psychologically, because we already know it's not good for the liver. In addition to that, it's probably affecting one's sleep, or at least not allowing us to sleep well. And then it's a snowball effect the next day, and then you do it again because you need it. But if you say, I've had a bottle of scotch as a one-off because I bumped into a mate that I haven't seen for a while, you get pissed, you have a really good time, that's probably adding to that conversation, and it's probably adding to your life because it's giving you a great deal of satisfaction. That's kind of like added to the whole meeting, and probably even allowed you to go deeper into some things because it broke down some inhibitions, and that's what you did in the past, so it gave you a certain satisfaction, you know. It's the same with anything, the same with sex or exercise, even good things like water. There's a certain amount that will kill you, you know, you could drown in it. And so I always say it's like a curve. It's like an upside down U. It's really, really good for you, then it's about neutral, then it starts being bad for you. That's the same with anything. So if you're smart, if we're smart, we have to always do things on the up, or at least neutral. But as they start becoming bad for us, we have to step back a bit. So you say, okay, you're meeting up with your mate, you're going for a bicycle ride, and you're now going to have a couple of ciggies. That's part of the deal. Is it bad for your lungs? Yes. Is it going to add to the fulfillment of that moment? Yes, as well. Now, you put both of those in a balance, and which one weighs more? Sometimes one would weigh more than the other, depending on how often you do it, and depending on how much satisfaction you got. So it's you know, I like Churchill, Winston Churchill's. He said that I have taken more out of alcohol than what alcohol has taken out of me. So, and in a way, that's what he means, that upside down you know. Sure, I've drunk or I've smoked, I've done this, but it's given me a great deal of satisfaction that outweighed the negative. So it's a good consideration to have. So don't feel too guilty. If you've locked it in to do it, don't regret it, enjoy it, and then make sure you control it straight afterward. And that's part of the characteristic of that meeting with that mate at the time. And I think, you know, I'm not, like I said, smoking is bad for you. I'm not promoting. Yeah, it's a little idiosyncrasy you have, I suppose, with you. Now, what else have we got here for you? I've got The Secret of Happiness here. Do you want it? Yeah, it's not covered by Medicare though. $5,000. Imagine you paid $5,000 for The Secret of Happiness. That's all right. That's cheap. No, but what I found personally about happiness, after 51 years, is that I think it's based on a certain moderation and balance. Because before we used to think we're being sold every day that it's about extremes. Do this and you'll be happy. Do that. It's always there's this one thing that's going to make you happy. So it's jumping off a plane or winning lotto. And sure, those things are going to make you happy for a little bit, especially winning lotto. But eventually, you'll go back to 5 out of 10 worth of happiness, because that's a little thermostat of happiness that we have within us. The human being always plateaus on 5. If you want to measure it out of 10 throughout time, plateaus on 5. We get the peaks. You win lotto, you fall in love, you buy a new car, you go overseas, whatever it may be, your team wins and so forth, And then bad things happen, you have a car accident, or your roof falls on you, or you owe money to the insurance, or you have an injury, and you might go down sometimes to 1, sometimes to 3, but eventually we get over that. With or without treatment, we go back to 5. Yeah. So that's a beauty. Knowing that's very important, because one of the myths of Western culture is that we should be on 10 all the time. That's impossible. There are things that'll get us up to 10, but they won't maintain us on 10. And money's one of those. But we grow up with a myth. And it's very hard to break that myth, because we know it, or we're taught it from when we're very little, that there's a positive correlation between money and happiness. That the more money you have, the more happiness you have. So, and that's just a myth. Sure, it helps, and to have the basics, water, enough to eat, food, shelter, that type of things. And then you build on that. But there's a certain point that more money won't make you any happier. To a certain point it will, because it covers your needs and so forth. But it's like being wet. Once you dive into the ocean, you can't get any wetter. You're wet. You can't get wetter than wet. And so money's the same. You can't have any more money than having money, type thing. So if I earn $100 million a year, or I earn 10 billion, it's exactly the same thing. It's not going to change my lifestyle as well. It's not going to, because you can only wear one shirt at a time. But what it will do, might add other things. I might decide rather to have 10 companies, I'll have 20 companies, and so forth. But it won't change the quality of happiness itself. And you don't even have to start with 100 million. I reckon maybe 10 million would be about where it'll change different. Yeah. If you earn under $1 million, it's very different earning 10 million. Yeah, it's a totally different lifestyle. Is there a connection to happiness? Probably not, because you've already got the basics. If you're earning a couple of $100,000 a year, you've covered your basics. So from then on, you're just creating more wealth, but it's not adding to your happiness, really. That's the way it works. So it's very important to know when to stop. It's a bit like smoking cigarettes. You've got to know, okay, this is that, but now this is enough. And now I'm going to move on to this, because what happens is that we lose focus, because if you put focus on one thing, it means another thing's missing out. It could be love, it could be your health, and so forth. So that's why a balance and a moderation of things is much more important than just the extremes. How do you find that? How do you get that? You've got to remind yourself, because like I said, we have all these myths in our heads that aren't real, therefore myths, but we think they're real. It's like you were saying about your relationship. You think it's all right, but maybe in an absolute sense it isn't, like you said, because we all have our own realities. So, but there's a collective reality that we share, and one of them is that, the more money we make, the more happiness. Or there's many others too, but that's one big one that it's important to know, because or else we spend our life chasing the wrong thing. We're looking for happiness in the wrong pathway. It's like the joke there was about the drunk who's searching for this on the grass. He's just searching for something, and this guy's looking at him saying, "What the hell?" He's been going for about 10 minutes. So he approaches him and he goes, "Sorry, mate, I see you're searching here. I've been watching." He goes, "Yeah." And he goes, "What are you looking for?" And he goes, I've lost my keys." And the guy says, "Well, where did you lose them?" And he goes, "Over there." he goes, well, why are you searching here? And he goes, oh, because there's more light, you know what I mean? And so, he's searching there because there's more light. That's a bit like a good analogy with money. We're searching in the wrong place. It's not, the keys aren't really there, you know what I mean? It's in things that maintain our consistent happiness, which is, family, friends, health, very important, because if you're in pain, it's very impossible to be happy. You could have everything, but if you're in physical pain, you can't be happy. And so that's why health is the most important thing to start off with. Then I think relationships, and then enough money. Not too much, not too little, but enough. I think that's where the key is, that moderation of enough. If we know where the threshold is, like in other things as well in our lives, whether it's sex, whether it's exercising, reading, watching TV, gaming, traveling, whatever it is, it has to be at a certain moderation, because if not, we are taking energy and time out of other things that are extremely important to create that sense of happiness as a whole. Sometimes it's not about getting an answer, it's about just making sense also of the question, and asking yourself whether what you're aiming at and what you do have may be enough to be happy without changing anything. And often it is. Often what we have already today is enough, but we're just not embracing it, I mean, for you, what's one thing you could change in your life, say, that would make a significant difference in your happiness? What would be one thing, if you had only one thing to change or to amend or to intervene in? What would you change in that in order to make that better? If you could, say with a magic wand, even if it was ridiculous, what would it be? It's there, and it's something that you wish to be able to come to terms with. Is there anything you can do about that or not? Can you change? When you said you'd like to change, what would it be? What would it be like if you changed it?